May 1st, 2018. The world's richest man receives a WhatsApp message from one of the world's most powerful princes. Just a video file, nothing suspicious, except within hours, Jeff Bezos' iPhone begins uploading gigabytes of his most private data to an unknown server. Text messages with his mistress, intimate photos, confidential business communications. Everything. And the worst part? He has absolutely no idea it's happening. This is the story of how a $1.7 trillion empire got infiltrated through a single encrypted message, how a crown prince allegedly weaponized technology to silence America's most powerful newspaper, and how a tabloid tried to blackmail the richest man alive with nude selfies. Welcome to the most expensive WhatsApp message in history. Dinner that started everything. April 2018, Los Angeles. Muhammed bin Salman is on a 3-week American Charm offensive tour, meeting tech titans, Hollywood executives, and political power players. The 32-year-old crown prince is rebranding Saudi Arabia as a forward-thinking, reform-minded nation ready to embrace the future. He meets Jeff Bezos at a private dinner. Two men at opposite ends of the power spectrum. One controls a kingdom sitting on 17% of the world's proven oil reserves. The other built a $1.4 trillion company from a garage and owns the Washington Post, one of America's most influential newspapers. They exchange numbers. They start messaging on WhatsApp. Casual conversation at first, technology, business, the future of innovation. Prince Salman sends Bezos friendly messages about investment opportunities, about Saudi Arabia's Vision 2030 plan, about how they could work together to shape the region's technological transformation. Bezos, who's made a career betting on audacious visions, is intrigued. What neither of them discusses that night is the growing tension between Saudi Arabia and the Washington Post. Because tucked away in the Post's newsroom, a Saudi journalist named Jamal Khashoggi has been writing increasingly critical columns about the prince's authoritarian crackdowns, his imprisonment of activists, his consolidation of absolute power. Bezos owns the Washington Post, but he doesn't control its editorial decisions. That distinction is about to become very, very expensive. Video that changed everything. May 1st, 2018, 8:43 p.m. Jeff Bezos' iPhone receives a WhatsApp message from MBS's verified account. It's a video file, 4.4 megabytes. The message appears to show a promotional video. Two women with Saudi and Swedish flags celebrating Saudi-Swedish relations. Bezos opens it. Nothing happens. The video seems corrupted or won't play properly. He moves on with his evening. But hidden inside that video file was something far more sinister. A piece of spyware that forensic investigators would later call zero-day malware. Within hours, Bezos' phone begins behaving strangely. Data usage explodes. Over the next several months, investigators would later discover the phone exfiltrated over 6 gigabytes of private data. But there's no visible sign of compromise, no suspicious apps, no obvious malware. The phone looks completely normal while it's quietly exfiltrating everything stored on it. Private text messages with Lauren Sanchez, the former TV anchor he's been having an affair with. Intimate photos they'd exchanged. Business communications worth potentially billions. Strategic discussions about Amazon's future. Personal conversations with his 4 children. Everything flowing out to an unknown destination while Bezos remains completely unaware. Journalist who paid the ultimate price. October 2nd, 2018, Istanbul, Turkey. Jamal Khashoggi walks into the Saudi consulate to obtain paperwork for his upcoming marriage. He never walks out. Inside that building, a 15-man hit squad sent directly from Riyadh murders Khashoggi, dismembers his body, and attempts to cover up one of the most brazen political assassinations in modern history. The Washington Post, Bezos' newspaper, goes into overdrive. Reporters uncover horrific details, audio recordings, bone saw purchases, the exact timeline of how Saudi agents killed and disposed of a journalist who dared criticize MBS. The stories dominate international headlines for months. Saudi Arabia initially denies everything, then admits Khashoggi died in a fistfight, then finally acknowledges he was murdered, but insists MBS knew nothing about it. Intelligence agencies said the Crown Prince personally ordered the hit. And while the Washington Post publishes story after devastating story about the murder, something else is happening behind the scenes. Someone is shopping extremely private information about Jeff Bezos to America's most notorious tabloid. Tabloid bombshell. January 9th, 2019. The National Enquirer, the same tabloid that published Elvis sightings and alien baby stories, drops a nuclear bomb on Jeff Bezos' personal life. Bezos divorce, world's richest man's marriage torn apart by steamy affair. The story contains text messages between Bezos and Lauren Sanchez that are so intimate, so detailed, so specific, that there's only one possible conclusion. Someone had access to extremely private communications. One of the texts Bezos sent to Sanchez reportedly read, "I love you, alive girl." Photos, details about private jet flights, hotel stays, a level of access that seemed impossible without breaching phone security. Bezos immediately suspects something is wrong. He hires Gavin DeBecker, one of the world's most respected security consultants, the man who protects billionaires, celebrities, and heads of state, to investigate how the Enquirer obtained such private information. DeBecker's team starts pulling at threads, and those threads lead somewhere very, very dark. Extortion attempt, February 7th, 2019. Bezos receives communication from Dylan Howard, the National Enquirer's chief content officer. Howard's message is simple: stop investigating how we got your private information, or we publish everything. And by everything, they mean everything. 9 intimate photos, full descriptions of each one, a catalog of humiliation designed to force Bezos into submission. The email reads like a mafia shakedown letter dressed in corporate language. Most billionaires would cave. Most people would pay anything to prevent that level of public embarrassment. Jeff Bezos does something completely unexpected. He publishes the entire extortion attempt on Medium. The blog post titled, "No Thank You, Mr. Pecker," in reference to AMI CEO David Pecker, lays out the entire blackmail scheme in detail. Bezos writes, "If in my position I can't stand up to this kind of extortion, how many people can?" The internet explodes. A sitting billionaire just called a tabloid's bluff and published their extortion attempt for the entire world to read. But buried in that Medium post is something even more interesting. Bezos raises questions about whether the Enquirer's access to his private data might have connections to Saudi Arabia. Why would he suspect that? Saudi connection. This is where everything gets exponentially darker. American Media Inc., the Enquirer's parent company, had published a glossy 97-page magazine in March 2018 celebrating Muhammed bin Salman's reform efforts. The magazine featured MBS on the cover, described him as the most influential Arab leader and a revolutionary. Most bizarrely, AMI showed the magazine to Saudi embassy officials in Washington before publication. Why would a tabloid company known for celebrity scandals suddenly publish propaganda for a foreign government? Gavin DeBecker's investigation uncovers something startling. The Enquirer's access to Bezos' private messages coincides almost perfectly with when his phone started exhibiting strange behavior after receiving that WhatsApp video from MBS. In March 2019, DeBecker goes public with his team's conclusion. Our investigators and several experts concluded with high confidence that the Saudis had access to Bezos' phone and gained private information. Saudi Arabia denies everything. The kingdom's embassy dismisses the allegations as absurd. AMI denies everything. They claim a source close to Bezos provided the information. But one question hangs in the air. If AMI had a legitimate source, why threaten Bezos to stop investigating? Why not just prove their source was real? Forensic investigation. Bezos' team brings in FTI Consulting, a global firm that specializes in digital forensics and cyber investigations. Former FBI agents, cybersecurity experts who've investigated nation-state attacks, the absolute best minds in the field. They perform a comprehensive forensic analysis of Bezos' iPhone. What they find is both sophisticated and terrifying. The video file sent from MBS's WhatsApp account contained what's known as zero-day exploit, a vulnerability in iOS that even Apple didn't know existed. The malware was designed to exfiltrate massive amounts of data, operate completely invisibly, leave minimal forensic traces, continue operating for months. This was military-grade surveillance technology that cost millions to develop. In January 2020, FTI Consulting releases their conclusion. With medium to high confidence, Jeff Bezos' phone was compromised by a file sent from Muhammed bin Salman's WhatsApp account. Not a generic hack, not a phishing attempt, a targeted attack originating from the Crown Prince's personal account. United Nations steps in. January 22, 2020. Two United Nations Special Rapporteurs, Agnes Callamard and David Kay, release a statement calling for immediate investigation into the alleged hack. Mind you, Callamard is the UN expert who investigated Khashoggi's murder. Kay is the UN's expert on freedom of expression. Their statement is unusually direct for UN language. The information we have received suggests the possible involvement of the Crown Prince in surveillance of Mr. Bezos in an effort to influence, if not silence, the Washington Post's reporting on Saudi Arabia. Think about that for a second. A foreign government allegedly hacked the phone of an American citizen who owns one of America's most important newspapers, specifically to gather intelligence that could be used to silence critical journalism. That's not just a privacy violation. That's an attack on press freedom executed through cutting-edge technology. FBI's non-conclusion. In December 2021, the FBI releases a statement. They found no evidence to substantiate claims that Saudi Arabia hacked Jeff Bezos' phone. But, and this is critical, they also didn't say the hack didn't happen. The FBI said they couldn't find proof. That's different from proving something didn't occur. Why couldn't they find proof? Spyware is designed specifically to be nearly impossible to prove. It operates at a level that leaves minimal forensic traces. The malware likely deleted itself after exfiltration. Meanwhile, Saudi Arabia continues denying any involvement. Bigger picture. Step back and look what allegedly happened here. A crown prince with unlimited resources and access to military-grade spyware allegedly hacked the phone of the world's richest man specifically because that man owns a newspaper publishing stories the prince didn't like. The collected intelligence was then potentially shared with a tabloid that tried to extort Bezos into silence. When Bezos refused to be extorted, he published the entire attempt, essentially daring anyone to challenge him. If a foreign government can compromise the personal communications of someone with Jeff Bezos' resources, what chance does anyone else have? If owning the Washington Post with all its legal protections and constitutional freedoms couldn't protect Bezos from surveillance, what does that mean for press freedom globally? And most disturbingly, if this was the response to critical journalism about Saudi Arabia, what happened to people without Bezos' platform, resources, or willingness to fight back? Jamal Khashoggi found out. Jeff Bezos' divorce from Mackenzie Scott was finalized in July 2019, making it the most expensive divorce in history at $38 billion. Lauren Sanchez is still with Bezos. They're married as of 2025. No one has ever been formally charged in connection with hacking Bezos' phone. Saudi Arabia has never admitted involvement. The full truth of what happened that night in May 2018, when Bezos opened a seemingly innocent video file, may never be completely known. What's your take on governments using military-grade spyware against journalists and their supporters? Drop your thoughts below. And if you want to see more of the world's richest icons and luxury stories, subscribe right now, because this is where the legends live forever.